some travel tools with Cruising Jules.
Cruising Jules here. I'm in Mombasa today, and there's a lot of excitement. It's been a really fun port. They're rolling out the red carpet right now. Guess what? The president's coming to greet the ship. Right, man, we had some dancers here. They were giving out coconuts and these nice hats. I saw some people got roses. Anyway, there's been 10 ships that are calling on this port this year, and one of them was the World Odyssey cruise ship. It's a floating university. This was the first time I've heard of such a thing. You could do a semester at sea. So you get on in Bangkok, Thailand, and you finish in Germany. There's other itineraries coming up, but this one just so happened to be over 100 days long. The next ship that came in after us was the Viking Sky. I heard it stayed 3 days and 2 nights. There's nothing like an overnight port, but in a place like Kenya, that's great if you want to do something like a safari. We, however, were on a passenger cruise ship, the Norwegian Dawn, otherwise known as the NCL Dawn, and we were really given a warm welcome by the people of Kenya. Someone working that day at the cruise port asked me, how did I find my welcome when I arrived in Mombasa? And I was very impressed, so I let them know, and then they said, well, how about on a scale of 1 to 10, how was your reception? And I said 10. And I really meant it. I've been cruising over 20 years now, and this was the first time I was ever greeted with people giving out coconuts and hats and roses. So tell me about it. If you've ever received anything coming off a cruise ship, maybe give a comment below. There were photographers and the media there that day, and it's my impression that Kenya's really gearing up for tourism now. According to the tourism board's website, the Norwegian Dawn was the largest ship to be there in the last 10 years. The people working in the tourism industry really seem to go out of their way to make sure that you had good plans for the day. And not only just for the day, but I think that they want us to come back. Would have liked to stick around to see the president of Kenya arrive and see the cruise ship, but we also had a limited amount of time in port that day and we had to get rolling. The vision of the Kenyan Tourism Board is to have Kenya as the most visited tourist destination in Africa. I wasn't there when the president arrived, but he did make an announcement that they were going to be changing the electronic travel authorizations for cruise ship tourists, so they want to make it easier for cruise ships and tourists to visit the country. Aside from that, the president took time to shake hands with guests, talk to different people, and visit the ship. I heard he had lunch in the Venetian dining room. Let's move along. On the other side of the building, there are vendors set up selling artisan products and souvenirs. And the building itself was modern, clean, and there was Wi-Fi in there. Now we're gonna keep going on our journey for the day in Mombasa. We're with Evans, with
Sense of Africa.
Should we come see
In
you if
Mombasa.
we're cruising into Mombasa?
Oh yes, for sure.
What can you do for us?
Take you around and show you all the good sites in Mombasa and other parts of the country.
Sounds good to me. Let's go visit Mombasa, Kenya. We opted for our own private driver today and car, so this is Mark and he's going to take us around in the Toyota. This is the city of Mombasa, but we're going to head to Diani Beach. You're going to see along the way that there are a lot of tuk-tuks or tuk-tuks, whatever you want to call them. I'll call them tuk-tuks. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that properly, but here they are. There's 1, 2, and then you'll see more. If you're cruising and you're doing independent travel when you're in port and you want to hire a taxi for the day, you could do that. You could do it from point A to point B, or you can try to negotiate and hire them for the full day. You may have an authorized taxi, you might have an authorized tour guide, or you might have a tuk-tuk driver. Usually there's some kind of negotiation that happens. Always do it before you get in a taxi or a car. You want to know how much it is for the day or how much is it for the destination, and you also want to find out, is that total or is that per person? Other things you might want to ask is, are you my driver or is somebody else going to be the driver? So in this case, if you remember, we met Evans. We knew that he wasn't going to be our driver. Sometimes that matters, sometimes it doesn't, but you want to get an idea of who will be driving you around. You can also ask about the condition of the vehicle, such as does it have seat belts or air conditioning. Here's another biggie. Find out what the language is of the driver that you're going to have for the day. You can always ask, and then they may tell you that, yeah, your driver speaks English. Now, if you haven't pre-booked it on a website ahead of time, your driver may or may not speak English, or they may know some basic words or phrases. The thing is, if you want an actual tour and get information about the place, there could be a communication issue. On a side note, everybody in Kenya was speaking English. The official languages in Kenya are English and Swahili. Now, I didn't read about this place in a guidebook or see anything online, but I thought this was fun. There were a whole bunch of flags from all over the world along the road here, and it just seemed to go on and on. Looks like the flags were maybe put up by a company called Mombasa Concrete. Kenya is a developing country, and by 2030 they aim to be a newly industrialized nation. So it does have some development efforts going on, but there are still some challenges. I'm going to generalize here, but from a tourism perspective, the better the infrastructure, the more likely you're going to be able to attract more tourists to visit a certain area. And the interesting thing about this particular area is there was a new road built between Mombasa and Diani Beach. So Diani Beach is a coastal area that has tourism, some hotels, and Mombasa is obviously, we have the cruise port there, and it's a big city. And now with this new highway, it would shave off a lot of time to get from Mombasa to Diani Beach. So we're gonna go on that road. But before that road was built, I guess you'd have to drive pretty far around out of the way, or you'd have to take a ferry. Along the way, we passed this area. It's industrial looking, and it looks like it's part of the port actually. So you can see all the cargo containers. You might be wondering why I'm pointing out this cargo area when it's a cruising video. Well, actually, in a lot of places around the world, including the port of Mombasa, cruising is kind of secondary. The shipping container, the shipping business is the main thing. And you can see here the sheer volume of goods that are being transported through this area. Here we've got this train bridge. The train runs from the port of Mombasa to Nairobi, and it carries cargo as well as passengers. There's a passenger train 3 times a day with speeds up to 120 kilometers an hour, including an overnight train. Look at this gorgeous scenery. Wouldn't you love to see this out of a train window? The service is operated via the Mombasa-Nairobi Standard Gauge Railway. The Kenya Railways Corporation is set to take over the management of the railway from the Chinese company Afrastar by the end of 2025. We finally made it to the new road. I think it's called the Dongo Kundu bypass, but I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, this road is quite significant. It acts as a catalyst for economic growth. It's going to make goods and people more accessible in the area. It's also going to make regional connectivity better by improving trade between East Africa and Tanzania. And this will also obviously help tourism. And I did notice, at least on travel.gc.ca, there is a 90-day East African tourist visa, which is good for Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda, and that's fantastic if you want to go on a safari and see the mountain gorillas. Off to our next destination. We're at Southern Palms today in Diani Beach, Kenya, just outside of Mombasa. And Joseph here has been showing us around. He's been taking care of us.
You're most welcome, Southern Palms.
You have wonderful hospitality here.
Thank you so much.
Let's see how some of our time went at the Southern Palms. First of all, after we arrived, we were greeted with some coconuts. They were quite refreshing, and then Joseph took us around and he went to show us the sights of the resort. Is it an all-inclusive resort?
Yes,
It's all pay one price.
Yeah. one price for everything. So barbecue is part of the option for dinner. So for dinner, we may either have the buffet or the barbecue.
We found out that this is the largest pool in East Africa. There's all kinds of activities going on in the pool, from regular lounging, swimming, to water aerobics. But if swimming in the pool isn't your thing, you can head on down to the beach. The Southern Palms Beach Resort sits at the edge of the Indian Ocean, and it's on the renowned Diani Beach. The day we visited, they were setting up for a wedding, so that's an option if you want to have one out this way. Let's go check out the beach. Off to the next beach. We're at the Diamonds right now. Diamonds, Diani Beach. First thing we saw when we approached were monkeys. When you arrive, you get to walk through a beautiful garden. It's very lush and it's beautifully landscaped here. There is some shopping before you hit the lobby. All the artwork in these shops are local artists, and they're community owned because they believe in community empowerment. Once again, we were greeted with that Kenyan hospitality, and we were given some coconuts. So this was my third coconut offering for the day. They were really refreshing because it was a hot day out there. Next, Lucy took us around the grounds and we got to see this giant baobab tree. They have some in Kenya, but they also have a lot in Madagascar. The resort has beautiful landscaping. I forgot to mention they also have a golf course here. Let's see some more gardens and monkeys.
Two species. We have the sykes and the vervet and the colobus.
Colobus?
Yes, the colobus are black and they have like white hair with like long white tails.
And what were the other two?
Sykes and vervet.
What a view! If you want to get a view like this, you need to book the sea view room. It's about 50% more than the standard room at the hotel when I picked a random date, but I think it's well worth it. Currently, you could book this hotel as all-inclusive, half-board, or breakfast-only option. There are many pools here, some private if you have a villa, and then beautiful public pools. But let's head down onto the beach. Before we get there, you can stop at the nice clean washroom and get a bite to eat. There's a place you could get pizza, and then you can also have lunch on the beach. If you're not staying at the beach, I would call or email ahead of time and make arrangements, see if you could come down for the day, maybe get a day pass or just come for lunch. Anyway, look at this beautiful white powdery sand. This was my first time in Kenya and first time at a Kenyan beach. I was really impressed with this resort. Let me know if you've ever been here or would you stay here. For those of you that dare, I guess you could go for a camel ride on the beach. That wasn't something I expected in Kenya. Time for our next destination. On the way, we passed some hospitals and the medical school. Let's get some views from the road. We've arrived at the Akimbo Handicraft Co-op.
Welcome.
For your fridge. It's a magnet. Oh, very good.
My name is Dizia
Dizia.
Mudugu.
Dizia is just one of many carvers at the Akimbo Handicraft Co-op. This co-op's been around since the 60s. It's grown from about 100 carvers to 2,800 active members. Check out this elephant and the MSD coveralls. Oh,
Yeah.
nice. What's he making?
So I make this
Oh, for the hair.
bambus. Yeah.
How long have you been doing this?
Only 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Bye. See you. Like this man here.
I like the elephant.
You're so talented.
Yeah, it's a talent.
Oh wow.
Beautiful. The carvers work on site around 9 acres with basic infrastructure, but there is a gift shop there, and this is where you purchase the goods. And when there's a price tag, there's also a number on it, and that's the carver's number. The gift shop accepts credit cards, US dollars, euros, and pounds. I do highly recommend a visit to this stop in Mombasa. It's time to hit the road, and they say you haven't been to Mombasa until you've seen the elephant tusks. Tusks are a gateway to East Africa that represent hope. They were commissioned in 1956. They were originally made of canvas with a wood frame, but now the frame is aluminum. Let's keep driving, and now we're in the banking district. Check out how long this goes for. Now we've arrived at Fort Jesus, which is a national monument and UNESCO World Heritage Site. The fort was built in the late 1500s by the Portuguese, but it changed hands many times. It also came under Arab, Swahili, and English control. It was used as a fort, it was used for slave trade, and a prison. I recommend you do a guided tour here. We hired one outside the gates, but there are student guides inside. Let's walk Old Town. We're approaching the Africa Hotel. It was built in 1901. We were told it was the first hotel in Kenya. There's probably some history there as they have visiting hours. Some of the things we learned on our walking tour was the difference in the style of the architecture. If you look up at the balconies, you'll see they look quite different. Around the bend is the end of our walking tour and some gift shops in the old port. One of the things we learned about on the ship before we got here is that they make sandals here, and sometimes they make them out of recycled tires and leather. Long way. They made out of
We don't
tires.
throw the tire.
No, they're recycled.
Recycle.
What's the name of your shop?
Oceanside. Yeah, welcome to the Oceanside shop. We sell Tanzanite. We sell Tsavorite. Those are stones from here in Kenya. The Tanzanite is from Mount Kilimanjaro, the bottom of Mount Kilimanjaro. The Tsavorite is from the Tsavo National Park. Thank you. Welcome.
Is all the jewelry made here in Kenya?
They are all made here. We have got workshop up here. All are handmade.
The sign says Old Port. It's been a long day. Let's get back to the cruise port. Back to the ship. If you didn't book your excursion directly with the cruise line, you'll probably be dropped out outside the port and you walk through the pedestrian area, but you do cross a road and you're into the parking lot. Once you're there, there's vendors. They're waiting for you. They'll probably be there until it's all aboard time. If you notice, the vendors have Port Authority lanyards and they all seem to be wearing the same type of shirt. The vendors seem to be very proud of their booths and what they're selling, and they really want to make a deal. We were there about an hour before all aboard time and sales were still going strong. Alright, time to go back to the ship. It's been a great day in Mombasa. We're off to Madagascar next. countries in the world that stand out in terms of customer service, Kenya is really going to be up there for me. Everybody we've encountered today, super friendly, like out of the ordinary friendly, and just willing to make sure that we have a great day when we're here. Beauty about cruising, there's lots of ports you can visit all around the world, any continent. It doesn't just have to be Caribbean or Alaska, right?
Let's go on a cruise. There's a lot of points I say. We can hit a beach like RC's Coco Cay. Let's finally take that cruise, sail the ocean and the sea, explore some private islands like the one at Princess Key. Cruising is the best, sailing with the waves, party on the deck, it's fun for holidays. Cruising is the best.